Reda, Managing Director of IPC. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Typically, what we do when we have a guest is, we like to get a little background. So if you wouldn't mind talking to our viewers who are going to be watching this both live and on the replay, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you came to the current moment, how you got into crypto, and
origin story arc, man. That's what we need.
Origins as well, right? Okay,
Origins.
got it. Yeah. Gotcha. So, great intro, by the way. Raising my glass back to you guys as well. So, Managing Director of IPC, background economics. That's what I did, and then I started working for a large information company. Worked for them for about 16 years. Did the kind of a number of jobs. Starting quite junior and then working your way up in the company. By the time I finished, I was the commercial manager for their EMEA branch, taking care of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of annual business. And we were typically dealing, with banks, with financial players, with oil and gas companies and what have you. So quite well entrenched within the kind of information supply, the database, big data, AI, all that kind of stuff. From an investment standpoint, I started investing in stocks quite early. And kind of slowly kind of growing your knowledge, what the do's and the don'ts and what have you.
Right.
Moved into crypto back in probably 2016. That's when I personally started investing in crypto. And then we've gone through the 2017 and 18 craze, obviously the DeFi summers and what have you, NFTs. We set up IPC back in 2018, towards the end of 2018.
Sure.
Where we had a slightly different strategy. We kind of focused more on infrastructure, which we still do. So we took care of kind of the node operation business and that sort of business, the kind of operator business. And then that kind of morphed into, we were an incubator. We were supporting projects and working with them very, very closely. And then we said, you know what, we're doing everything that, good VCs should be doing. Why don't we just kind of switch onto the VC world? And that's when we've made the decision to kind of actively move on to the VCU and the investment world. And that's why we kind of kept our investment kind of strategy and thesis on capital investments. That's a given. Then the infrastructure, node operation, whatever that might be, needed obviously to support mostly the projects that we invest in, but also some other projects where we see there is potential. And then finally, maximizing yield, whether it's farming, whether it's DeFi, staking, whatever that might be, just to make sure that we are utilizing our dollar to the max.
Awesome, man. That's what's up. Wow. That's I feel like this is going to be a big brain show for me. I'm gonna have my brain grow during this show. I can already tell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, as I've said, Reda usually has a much wider perspective than your typical Avalanche person. I'm not going to lie. People have called me a maxi every now and then, and I try to learn outside of my confines as well. But I think Reda is one of those people who actually ventured out. So in that vein, I actually have some questions for you, man. Yeah. Before we actually step outside of the confines of Avalanche, what is on your mind nowadays? I know you're quite involved with the Elderun project. I actually tried to get some folks from the Elderun team on here. We still haven't been able to schedule that. We'd love to have them on here as well. But yeah, tell us what you're looking at most lately, what your general views are of the ecosystem and how everything is going.
Yeah, there is a lot happening. And whilst we're trying to slow it down a little bit, just so that we could enjoy summer with the families and loved ones, because, particularly being in the UK, very kind of short summers, we're trying to make the most of the time now. Nonetheless, it's quite busy. Elderun, as you mentioned, is one of those projects that we kind of incubating and working very, very closely with. Very big fan of what the guys are achieving, of the kind of technical abilities they have, their vision, the transparency, the way they governed, obviously, the compliance. Really, really kind of happy with the progress they're making, and we supported them, quite extensively on that front. So big shout outs, obviously, to the entirety of the Digard and the Elderun team. Some exciting stuff coming up as well, and I think the game's going to be quite awesome. So yeah, things to look out for. But as the market is going through turmoil now, and it still is, we saw the drop, we saw the Luna drop, we saw the problems that we face, we saw, the Voyager, 3AC, Capital, and many others.
The list goes on.
Yeah. When is it going to stop, and what is it going to be where it stops and kind of reverts? And I guess that's the $1 million question. So we're trying to readjust our strategy a little bit, just to make sure that we are valid for the current time, right? And that we, structure ourselves in the best way to go forward for the next few years or so. So we're trying to continue investing. I think that's a must. I think this is, arguably the best time to invest. Why? Because a lot of the short-term, a lot of the fake projects, they're not even pitching to start with. So a lot of the time, the qualities that you see are generally better than what you see in the peak of the bull run, or the latter peak of the bull run. And also the valuation is reasonable. So when you invest now, you enter a lot better and a lot kind of suitable valuation that when, kind of during the craze of the bull run. So we continue the investment. We have earmarked a number of ecosystems, including Avalanche, of course. I think Avalanche is, we've made it public. We've talked about it a number of times, that we want to increase exposure to. And we want to kind of hold a very strategic position within those ecosystems. So as an example, with Avalanche, we want to hold at least 1 million AVAX by a certain time frame that we kind of, targeting. We have certain prices that we said these are reasonable prices to kind of DCA into. So, we try to remove emotions out of it. We sat down, we decided what we're going to do, how much we're going to do it, at what prices we're going to be buying. We send the money to centralized exchanges. We put the bid offers in there. When the prices hit, it hits. We don't even check it. That way, we don't have to, rush decisions on the go. You don't have to look at the market on a day-to-day basis. A lot of the decision makers, they were away, or they're currently away on holidays. So we didn't want to kind of be dependent on, a point that could, potential failing point. So we just kind of, let's do that. Let's agree on it. Let's automate the process. And we're doing that for a number of different ecosystems, Polkadot being another that we want to kind of increase our exposure to, and some other ones as well. And we've made probably a few weeks back our largest equity investment to date, 7 digits kind of investments. We continue to invest. We continue to support projects. We're working really closely with pretty much every single project that we invested in. We're not just working closely with them. Sometimes we've been absolute pain in their asses as well. And I think
you got to, though.
Listen, that's how value is created, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think the alternative is much worse if you're not there, and that becomes the the evil VC style, right? Like, you're not involved, out of mind, out of sight, right? Out of sight, out of mind. Right?
Exactly. And I feel as institution kind of investors, where we have an agreement, a piece of paper, certain terms and conditions that we have to adhere to, we have that kind of responsibility towards other kind of private investors,
right.
Not private investors, but public investors.
Sure.
Well, because we could hold those founders accountable to the milestones that they promised, or the things that we shook hands on initially. So we utilized the dead times, right, to work with them, sponsor them, help them, incubate them, give them as much help as we could do. In some cases where they needed to raise money, we kind of doubled down on them. We gave them even more stables, right? And we bought extra tokens from them to help them out.
Right.
But on the other hand, if we see something that's not being delivered, that's not right, that's not matching what we've been promised, that doesn't make any sense, we kind of utilize that power of position of power to just kind of probe them a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What's happening here?
Makes total sense, though. And I mean, I did see that on your Twitter, the 7-figure endorsement. That's huge. Congrats on that. And make sure you're following Reda on Twitter. I follow you on Twitter. Good follow, quality follow. I'm glad I did it, right? So our production crew has Reda's Twitter right below. So make sure you're following him on the tweeter.com. And yeah, man, that's awesome. So please, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No, I'm very excited about this topic and that investment. It's our largest investment. It wasn't an easy decision to make.
Yeah.
We had to write a check, and you write in a check whilst Bitcoin, is at $20,000, and you say, well, Bitcoin could be doing great, and the growth curve could be massive, and the amount of money in the shorter time frame could be great, and it is enticing, right? It makes it double hard to put your money elsewhere. But we had to stick to our guns and really believe in what we believe in terms of infrastructure, DeFi projects, solid builders, and this is an equity investments that we've made, right? So there are little bit more, we have a little bit more rights, just given the process of it and the nature of it. And at the same time, we looked at it and we said, well, we're here for the long term. And whatever we do, whatever investments we do, whether it's kind of token investments or equity investments, is we look at it from a very, very long term when you look at it from a kind of crypto blockchain type timeframes. Sure. So most of our investments are 3 years plus, right? 3 years, 5 years, even beyond that. So we said, well, we're here for the long term. Might as well double down on infrastructure that's going to be here for the long run, that's going to have to support multiple projects. The ecosystem is only kind of, expected to grow substantially over the next few years or so. So sure, maybe a little bit less return than what we could get from certain ecosystems, right? But it's a much safer return, and it's going to give us a very strategic position as well.
Yeah, fully agreed. I have two questions. And I've written some Twitter threads about this myself, but it would be amazing if we could hear it from folks like yourself. And if the perspective is different, I could learn some stuff as well. Number one, do you view the bottom, or actually is the bottom in? Or do you think we have more legs down, given the state of the macro markets? Up to you if you want to keep that short or long. And the second question is, when you evaluate these projects, like what is the thought process behind a 7-digit check, especially an equity one? Like, how do you do the evaluation? What are the things that you look at? Because I think this is something that the community out there definitely needs to hear more from folks like yourself, so that the entire I need 100x as soon as this thing goes to the market, like that mentality needs to disappear for this market to mature. So it would be amazing if you can share a little bit about your thought process and how IPC does these things.
Absolutely. To be honest with you, the 100x, we don't even target those. I mean, when they happen, and they happen a lot of the time unexpectedly. We hit few 100x. We hit a few 100x's, and I could say to you, the 100x's, the quickest 100x that we've managed to do as this VC, we've hit it in probably one of the weakest projects that we've invested into.
Wow. Okay.
And it goes to to show you that it's not necessarily based on due diligence, those 100x's, because there's so many factors out there. Sometimes external, sometimes there's the hype element, sometimes there is other investors and and how they kind of the circulating supply and what have you. So targeting the mirage of 100x, right? It's just gonna mislead us a little bit. So what we do is we try to target solid projects. And we try to believe in that good old due diligence, right? And ultimately, is this project going to be here in 3 years, in 5 years' time, right? Because if it's here, it's got a chance. And if it's got chance, and if it's got ammunition, it could still fight back, right? But I'm going to align the second question first, which is the due diligence process that we have. We have kind of refined our due diligence process, and it's never perfect, and it's never going to be, right? It's something that evolves all the time, and we continue to change it probably once every 4, 5, 6 months. But we'll add something to it, we'll make tweaks to it, we'll change it accordingly. So what we did, we went with the initial kind of wave of investments that we've made based on a set due diligence process that we have. And then we waited 12 months, and we said, we've got to see those projects and their return on those projects, and then refine, because we didn't want to change it too quick, because otherwise you start just kind of, guessing, right? What's going to work, what's not. So we wanted to see some kind of return on investment and then readjust our due diligence process to it accordingly. So we did that, and we've made it, I've got to say that we've made it very robust. The last iteration that we've made is super robust. It's very, very thorough, very rigorous process. It's a massive Excel file that we have. And we look at all projects side by side. We have a number of points, obviously, that are absolutely key to us. Token economics. I'm going to mention some. I'm not going to give too much away, but at the same time, I'm going to give some alpha. Probably, some stuff that people utilize already. Token economics, as an example, is a big one. Sure. We utilize things like founders, right? Their background, Not necessarily just the background, but do they have what it takes to kind of deliver on what they're trying to set out to do? Because just having a background and then jumping onto crypto might not necessarily work, right? If you come because you're an ex-Google person, you're going to be ultra successful in crypto.
Right.
Why? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people with very minimal background, people straight out of uni without even kind of university degree, and they did incredibly well because they had the right mentality, the right, go get it type attitude. So we look at things like that, but at the same time, each section's got multiple subsections, and then each section obviously has got different coefficient or different ratio, and then we put all the kind of numbers together and we rate it out of 5. I've got to say, based on the new system that we have, the best projects that we have rated at 4.2. Most projects that we have invested into rated between 3.5 and 4. Right, that's how tough and that's how rigorous the process is. So
sure.
Doing the bull run, we invested in anything that's kind of rated 3.5 and above. We kind of invested. Now, 3.7, 3.8, and I could tell you that probably 1 out of 50 projects would hit those numbers, probably even beyond.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, that's I took off my hat because I told you guys it's big brain time. My head just grew just listening to our guests here. Thank you for that, Reda. Firestorm, did you have something else? Because I have a couple questions too, but I want you to be able to get all your questions out before you have to go to Neptune.
Just the first part. Do you see the market actually dropping more from where we are? And obviously not financial advice. Nobody has an hourglass. Nobody has like a ability to predict the future. But do you think the bottom is in, or do you think we have more pain coming?
Okay. I'm a little bit in between. I'm personally thinking the bottom is not in yet. There's still some downward movement coming. To not spend too much time on that, because I think all of us, we have different ideas, and I think we're all going to kind of agree on the main concepts. I think the overall macro market is looking really bleak. I think if you look at the ES, if you kind of, hit a little bit of a relief over the past couple of weeks, I'd say. I've been on holidays. I just got back yesterday, so I'm not entirely up to date with my information. I've tried to stay away from the internet and from the markets. But I've looked at my portfolio on my phone, and it looked a little bit green from the futures market and the stock market. Nonetheless, I don't think it's really gonna revert yet, and I think BTC is following ES, from the macro's perspective. When we look at the geopolitical side, we look in Ukraine, Russia problems. We looked at Kosovo and Serbia kind of type issues over the weekend that scared a lot of people. We're looking now Russia and Taiwan, China, and the Taiwan issue. What is it leading to? So those kind of macro instabilities in the market, they don't give me the confidence to say, okay, the foundation is built, every single thing is solid, and at least we have now good playing field where BTC, or any kind of stock, or any markets could thrive. I still believe there are elements that could shake the market. Also, from a BTC standpoint, the MT Gox case, right?
Yeah.
I think the release is soon. Nobody knows the exact date, but the date that's being kind of earmarked, or the period that's been earmarked, initially was August this year. And that could see a release of about 140,000 Bitcoin into the market, right? All depends on how it's going to be managed. Most likely it's going to be, bought OTC if a deal obviously is struck. Nonetheless, I see that if it's bought BTC, it's money off the market, right? Onto the OTC kind of world. So all what I just mentioned, for me personally, I still believe that there is a leg down. Having said that, smart money is not money that try to catch the bottom, because that's not always the smartest move to make.
That's why the DCA, you said.
Totally.
Right? Exactly. Because when you look at it, how much are you expecting it to go down to? So what is the bottom of the bottom that somebody that's genius kind of trader will try to catch, and maybe some. And to those that catch it, I call them the absolute goats. But what is the bottom now? Is it 15? Is it 17? Is it 12? Is it 9? Right? How close are we to the bottom? Even if it's 10, we're 20, right? So we're 50% there, but we are many, many, many folds away from the all-time high. So buying now it's not a bad call anyway, because you're buying it towards, it's called, in a few years' time, we're going to be looking at 20 and say, damn, I should have bought 20. The guys that caught 20 were, genius. They've made the right call. So there is arguments for both sides. I think people should be just prudent with their money, should DCA, and, should be careful. I don't think anybody knows exactly when the bottom is in, how much the bottom going to be, because there is so much money now. There's so many billions sat on stables. It's unbelievable. And all it takes is one of those big guys to decide, well, I'm not going to let BTC get to that particular price. And they could literally, drive the market to a certain position. Yeah. That, changes all the, super smart macro analysis and takes it completely out of the window, because that's dependable on one single entity to make one decision.
I mean,
last question, actually. This is a funny one, and it came from the audience. Some dude whose nickname seems to be TT Shan1. I have no idea who that is. And he's asking, where was Dexalot rated? I think that's a great question. So I'm going to eat my own question, and I'm going to ask that one.
So the question is, where was
Dexalot rated on your spreadsheet in relation to the project? And what was our score?
It was rated good, and I honestly speaking, it was above 4, and it was our second best investment.
Ooh, hold on
Folks,
a second. Hold on.
You heard it in the club first. All right.
There we go. Above a 4.
Absolutely. In the spirit of transparency, it was rated incredibly good. And it was our second best investment, and it was rated, I can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but what I'm 100% certain of, it was rated above 4 out of 5, and only one of the projects that we have rated just a teeny bit above it, but I can't remember the exact.
Amazing.
Tim just said I'll pay you later, man.
Yeah, TT Shan1 is going to send you your tip later, bro. Great marketing right here, gentlemen.
That's how we do it. It's all chill. It's just all love,
Listen, this is what crypto is all about. It's all about marketing. Listen.
Absolutely.
Anyways, man, I'm going to shut up. I think Jimmy has some stuff as well, but
I got a couple questions, and I know Firestorm has to be out. So if you do Firestorm, if you got to blast off to Neptune, don't feel like we can say our goodbyes if you want to. Just pop in real quick before you leave, okay?
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna listen to more answers.
Reda, did you know this guy transmits from Jupiter? That's why his signal sounds so bad.
Yeah, definitely. I knew that. Once I was in a conference somewhere, and I had to make a phone call with him. And the line wasn't great, so he explained to me the whole thing, right? Yeah, so I'm impressed. I don't know what technology they use over there, but
what are the native people of Jupiter? Jupiterians? I don't know. We'll think about that later. So I got a couple questions for you, Reda. Okay. If you guys didn't know this, let me give you a little bit of background for our viewers. And also wanted to say quick shout out to Tum4Y1 for joining the chat and saying hello. Appreciate you. Thanks for being here. So viewers, chat, if you didn't know, Reda is one of the few people that has met our famous mascot Dexter in person, right? I believe you guys met in Barcelona at the summit, at the Avalanche Summit, correct?
Absolutely. I think the first time I saw Dexter on the camper van, on the blue, very cool van, and I was so jealous. I was walking to the conference and I saw them all in a van. I was like, okay, I didn't even get a lift with them, and I so wanted to meet with them. So the first time I saw them, just took a glimpse of them as they were driving past me on a very cool van with surfboards on top, and me turning up in a suit in a crypto conference in Barcelona.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and it's a great photo. It's on our Twitter. If you haven't seen it, you probably have to scroll for a little bit, but we'll retweet it later. But anyway, Dexter is a young axolotl. He's just coming up in the game. He's trying to build, right? So I guess, what advice would you give to all the young axolotls like Dexter out there that are trying to build in kind of a weird set of circumstances right now, right?
Trying to build.
Yeah, like what advice would you give to all the young axolotls like Dexter out there?
Yeah, I would say something that I've said before in a different interview. This is a very welcoming ecosystem. just the nature of it, the nature of the people that are drawn to it by instinct, where boundaries are a little bit blurred. Hierarchy is a little bit blurred as well. I think it's a very flat, very horizontal system where you could quite easily reach out to people through socials and ask questions, get close to them, really understand what they're trying to do. What I say is, before you make any move, do a lot of research. Really try to understand what you're trying to do. Secondly, if you're trying to reach out to somebody to mentor you, to help you, to support you, to offer you a job, whatever that might be, try to be useful. Don't just be the one that comes, ask questions, and disappears. Come with an idea. Hey, I think I could help your ecosystem with this, right? If you give me this, I could help you out. So I would like to, provide something of value to you guys. But in return, is it possible to mentor me? Is it possible to show me the ropes? Is it possible to teach me how to do this? Right? Create a value prop that people would find hard to turn you down. A lot of people, would welcome you with open arms here. The other thing I would say, don't rush. The market is very forgiving from an investment standpoint. So don't feel like you have to invest, you have to revenge, you have to get your money back. I've made that mistake. Many people that I know made those mistakes. So don't rush. Whether you're trying to build something, don't rush with an idea. Take the time, do it right the first time. And at least, even if you don't do it right, at least have the ability to kind of correct it as you're going along. But just don't rush, because if you rush, you're going to regret it. I think consequences are going to be bad. Money's going to be sunk into it, etc., etc. That's going to dishearten you. It's going to take, obviously, what really brought you here in the first place, and we don't want that. We want to keep you in. And very importantly, I would say, this is something that we try to keep secret, but your question, Jimmy, is very good, because we are, as IPC, we're building a project as well. So we're trying to build a project, and we kept that. This is the very first time we go in public about it. We kept it very secretive so far. It's going to be coming up at some point. We're hoping that we will have it finalized by the end of the year. We're not raising money. We're trying to do it with our own money. The reason why we're doing the project is because we're trying to fill in a gap in the market. That's one. And two is because we want to prove that you don't need crazy amount of funds to get things done, right? And it's a blockchain. Everything is on chain. It's a very cool project. I think it's going to be a hit. I think it's going to be big from, kind of the problem that it's trying to solve and how many users it could have potentially and what we're planning for it. But at the same time, the proof of that is, as a VC, we walk into a lot of meetings and they say, we're trying to raise $100 million. We're trying to raise $10 million to deliver something. Sure. We're just trying to show that it can be done on budget if you know what to do and if you have the right individuals, the right builders, the right team around you.
So a little bit of light alpha for you, chat, on a Tuesday afternoon, right? Or Tuesday evening in your case. And wow, that's awesome. That's just such great advice. And I gotta say, everything that's some advice for young axolotls that are trying to build out here. If you're just joining us, chat. But I gotta say, this space is so welcoming because I don't know if you can tell or not, but I don't come from the finance world. I kind of have a very non-traditional background for someone who's doing what I do now. And everyone has welcomed me with open arms and been nothing but helpful. The entire Dexalot team has just kind of like schooled me on anything I need to be schooled on. And I think the most important question, or excuse me, not the most important question, but the most important thing is to continue asking questions and learning new stuff. I mean, that was in my old industry. I did that the same. And now that I work in crypto, whenever I have a question, my guy, Brad McFall, has always got a great answer for me. Jonathan Ackerman, our CMO. Firestorm is pretty much the go-to explainer though. So yeah, man, thank you for that answer, because I think there are a lot of people such as myself who come from different industries who are looking at our space and saying, what's happening here? I want to know more about what's going on here, whether they're younger or older. You know what I mean? I think it's a variety in both senses. So thank you very much for shedding some light on that. Second question, I lied. I actually have 3 questions. Second question. Jimmy, would you come back and talk to us again? Would you do this again?
Absolutely.
Hey, let's go. Had to. Sorry.
I have to jump. The shuttle is here. I've been holding them. It's difficult. They're burning Impulse Fuel, whatever
The
the hell
space
that
shuttle
is.
Uber. You got the space shuttle Uber
I
there?
hate to do this, but Reda, much appreciated. Thank you, sir, for joining. I will try to catch you next time I am on Earth, especially you, my good sir.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll meet somewhere that's nice and cozy. But anyways, I'll see you guys. Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the cosmos, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bro.
So on that note, dude, yes, we would love to have you back. This was like so informative, and obviously IPC is fam, and I just this has been awesome. So we would love to have you back on the show anytime. Please.
Thanks, brother. No, this was a blast. Thank you very much for having me on board. We're a big fan of the show, big fan of you, what you're doing, guys, and we're here to support. And if anybody's got any questions, needs any help, reach out to me. I think you've already published my Twitter handle, or Icon Plus Capital, and they direct you to me. That was a blast. Thank you very much for having me on board, Jimmy.